From the UNTV News and Rescue Command Center in Quezon City, this is Y News.
Tonight on Y News, Philippines and Malaysia to enhance defense and counter-terrorism cooperation after President Rodrigo Duterte meets Prime Minister Mahathir in a bilateral meeting. Majority of Filipinos reject current moves to change the charter and shift to federalism, according to a Pulse Asia survey. And former President Noynoy Aquino to skip President Duterte's State of the Nation address for the third time. Good evening. President Rodrigo Duterte and Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad agreed to enhance the defense cooperation between the Philippines and Malaysia in a bilateral meeting held earlier today. From Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Joan Nano tells us why, live. Joan, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Rheena. President Rodrigo Duterte has concluded his two-day private visit here in Malaysia with a meeting with its newly installed Prime Minister Mohamad Mahathir earlier this afternoon. The two leaders discussed during their meeting the insurgency in Mindanao and the threat of the Islamic State in the Southeast Asian region, particularly in the Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia. With this, the two chief executives agreed to enhance the security and defense cooperation between the two countries and to elevate the existing joint patrol in the territorial waters to formal joint military training. In a statement released by Malacanang, it says that the two leaders talk about the economy as the two countries are part of the Association of the Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN. Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir also promised to send weapons to the Philippines while vowing to remain as its ally to combat terrorism and piracy in waters. Duterte also thanked Mahathir for taking care of the Filipinos working and residing in Malaysia. Duterte is the first leader to meet with the 93-year-old Mahathir since the Malaysian leader won the elections in May this year. This is his second term since serving as the Prime Minister from 1981 to 2003. After the bilateral meeting, President Duterte immediately flew back to the Philippines along with his delegates, bringing with him various deals that are expected to help bolster the ties between the Philippines and Malaysia. And that is the latest live here in Kuala Lumpur. Back to you, Rheena.
Thank you so much, Joan Nano, reporting live from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Majority of Filipinos are opposing current moves to change the charter and shift to federalism, according to a survey by Pulse Asia. Let's find out why from Rosalie Cos.
More Filipinos are saying no to proposals to change the charter and shift to federalism. The latest Pulse Asia survey results show that 2 in 3 Filipinos, or 67%, do not agree with constitutional amendment. The survey also notes that 37% are against Chacha now and in the future, while 30% are presently against it but may be open to the idea in the future. The public opposition to charter change is 5% higher than the March 2018 survey result. Majority of those saying no to Chacha for now are coming from Metro Manila, Luzon, Visayas, and from Class D. The same survey also shows that 62% of Filipinos are not in favor of federal government. Only 28% are supportive to it, while the remaining percentage are undecided. The survey was taken through interviews with 1,800 registered voters nationwide from June 15 to 21, 2018. In response to the poll, Malacanang said in a statement that the Duterte administration will exert more effort to educate the public about Chacha and federalism. Meanwhile, House Deputy Speaker and Cebu Representative Gwendolyn Garcia vows to continue pushing for federalism despite a low percentage of support.
We do not base our direction purely on surveys.
According to Pulse Asia research, it is also possible that the public is yearning for the government to focus on more relevant issues rather than amending the Constitution and changing the form of government.
Hindi nangangahulugan sa information campaign, automatically magiging aprobado ang tao o ang nakararami sa tao. Dahil maaaring tingin nila, makayang i-address yung aming concerns using the present system or present provisions.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
Malacanang just shrugs off the plan of former President Benigno Aquino III to skip President Rodrigo Duterte's State of the Nation address for the third time. Let's find out why from Grace Cousin's report.
The House of Representatives Inter-Parliamentary Relations Service confirms that former President Noynoy Aquino will not attend the upcoming State of the Nation address of President Rodrigo Duterte. This is after the former chief executive declined to accept the invitation they sent for the SONA on July 23. This is the third time that Aquino skipped Duterte's SONA. However, the Malacanang just shrugs off Aquino's refusal, saying it is his personal decision. Meanwhile, other political personalities have confirmed their attendance to the SONA based on the list provided by the Inter-Parliamentary Relations Service. These are former President Fidel Ramos, former President and now Manila Mayor Joseph Estrada. Also attending the event are former Senate Presidents Juan Ponce Enrile, Aquilino Nene Pimentel Jr., and Manuel Villar, as well as the former House Speaker Jose De Venecia Jr. Vice President Leni Robredo, however, earlier confirmed her attendance to Duterte's third SONA. Grace Cousin, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Various women's organizations are calling on President Rodrigo Duterte to just call off his upcoming State of the Nation address. Kathy Maglalang tells us why.
Duterte, wag ka nang mag-SONA.
This was the cry of various women's groups that gathered on Monday at the Bahay ng Alumni at the University of the Philippines ahead of President Rodrigo Duterte's State of the Nation address or SONA. They convened to call on the chief executive to just call off his SONA, believing that Duterte will not deliver a report that would summarize the real state of the nation. For Attorney Maria Aleta Tolentino, the Secretary General of People Power Volunteers for Reform, Duterte has no accomplishments to report because he failed to fulfill his campaign promises such as curbing corruption and illegal drugs.
Binubola lang tayo, ba't pa siya magsosona? Mumurahin lang niya tayo sa lahat naman ng nangyari sa atin pagbobola at panluloko.
Tolentino also hits the president for pushing charter change and shift to federalism, which she believes would only pave the way for Duterte to stay in power.
So we the Filipinos, we must reject that chacha. Hindi chacha ang kailangan natin. Ang kailangan natin, trabaho, kalayaan, katarungan.
The coalition of women's organizations also lambasted the tax reform law implemented by the administration, claiming that his only serves to further burden the indigent Filipinos.
Yung train, pahirap yun sa mahirap. Bakit? Nakita na natin, the commodities, the basic commodities are skyrocketing in prices. Yung sardinas na lang, no? Up 2 piso hanggang 4 na piso ang tinaas.
The group also opposes the proposed joint exploration between the Philippines and China in the hotly contested West Philippine Sea. They believe that Filipinos should only be the ones to benefit from the resources-rich area. President Duterte has earlier said that he welcomes opposition against his leadership and even encouraged groups to launch protests on the day of his SONA.
Seek redress, shout on the streets. Gusto ko nga magpista kayong lahat so that all the people can go there during the SONA address at mag-demonstrate kayo doon.
Kathy Maglalang, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Public Attorney's Office files another criminal complaint against former Health Secretary Janet Garin in relation to the Dengvaksha controversy. Here's why from My Bermudez.
Former Health Secretary Janet Garin faces another complaint of homicide, torture, and alleged violation of the Consumer Act of the Philippines relating to the mass immunization program of the Department of Health. This is the 11th complaint filed by the Public Attorney's Office, which stemmed from the report of a parent from Subic, Zambales, whose son allegedly died after receiving Dengvaksha vaccine last year.
Ang last po na naalala ko July 12, 2017.
According to PAW Forensics, the body of the said child was found to have similar complications with the other Dengvaksha immunized patients they have autopsied.
Bleeding ng mga internal organs as well as bleeding ng brain. Ang cause of death niya is yung extensive and severe hemorrhage ng brain.
Pao says they are planning to file more raps against Garin as vaccinees who have undergone autopsy reached 67, 55 of which have also undergone histopathological examination.
Tuloy-tuloy po yan at meron pa pong 3 kaming inihanda na another sets kaya magiging 14 ang criminal cases dito.
Meanwhile, the DOJ panel granted Pao's request to submit the reply affidavit on August 1. This is despite the opposition of the respondents' lawyers to Pao's motion claiming this is just aimed at postponing the trial and impeding the resolution of the case. Mai Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Education and health officials have launched on Monday 2 mobile applications that would monitor the status of those who were inoculated with dengue vaccine. The real-time online monitoring apps called Abizo and Kaisala will soon be available so parents and guardians of student vaccinees can report and seek assistance they might need. DepEd says the apps will serve as an alternative way to have faster and more efficient monitoring by the use of technology. They assure that these applications, including the data sharing, are also under the supervision of the National Privacy Commission in compliance with the Data Privacy Act. The said apps are expected to be fully functional by the end of August. In other news, the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology Unit in Antipolo City now allows its inmates to communicate with their loved ones through social media platforms. Vincent Arboleda tells us why.
About 88% of over 1,000 inmates in Antipolo City Jail are deprived of the chance to see their families because of distance and lack of financial source for transportation. To bridge the gap, the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology Unit in Antipolo City launched the eDalaw project, which allows inmates to communicate with their loved ones through social media platforms such as Facebook or Skype. Inmates who wish to avail of the eDalaw service need to ask the jail guards for a schedule. Each inmate is given 10 to 15 minutes talk time to hear his family.
Malaking bagay kasi yung ibang hindi nakakaalam na nandito ka. So through eDalaw, malaking bagay para sa amin. Kasi meron iba sa amin wala nang kamag-anak pero alam nila yung account ng mga kaibigan ba.
Meanwhile, the Antipolo City Jail is now asking help from non-governmental organizations to support the project, which they believe will help in their overall welfare of inmates or persons deprived of liberty in the said facility.
Nananawagan po ako sa mga non-government organization natin or sa mga individual. Ang pangangailangan po nila ay tulad rin ng pangangailangan nating nasa labas.
Vincent Arboleda, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
A first-time composer from Bulacan impresses the judges of a song of praise or asop. Leslie Longbowen tells us why.
Joanna Marie Nicolas, a videographer from Bulacan, was inspired to write a gospel song after watching numerous episodes of A Song of Praise or ASOP. And this month, she finally decided to join the songwriting competition with her composition, Ang Ngalan Mo. First try, Joanna easily impressed the judges.
Hey, I love your song. Good job.
Ang ganda ng ng mga combination mo. Ang gaan-gaan ng loob ko habang ako'y nakikinig.
Malaki kasalanan mo sa akin. Ang bigat ng dibdib ko. Naiiyak ako sa kanta. Sa sobrang ganda.
Meanwhile, Joanna hopes that more songs will be composed for the Almighty.
Sobrang crowded na po nung industry. May mga iba-ibang genre na po tayong naririnig. Pero syempre, iba pa rin po kasi yung mga awit na ang laman po puro mga papuri sa Diyos. Mas kumbaga naiiba din po nun yung mindset ng mga kabataan.
Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Up next on Y News. Filipino fans celebrate fighting Senator Manny Pacquiao's win over Argentinian Lucas Matisse. And Ombudsman, Graftbusters, and PNP responders to duel in the off-season finals of the UNTV Cup Executive Face-Off. Thank you for keeping me company in the first part of Y News. More reasons behind the stories with Angelo, Castro III, and William Thio after this quick break. I'm Rheena, Villamor-Camara. Good evening.
Welcome back to Y News. We pick up from where Rheena Villamor-Camara left off. I am Angelo Castro III. Here are the headlines. National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council raises blue alert warning as Tropical Depression Henry strengthens the southwest monsoon. The Philippine National Police bears the names behind the murder of General Thio Mayor Ferdinand Bote. And revived fighting Senator Manny Pacquiao stuns Argentinian Lucas Matisse to claim welterweight crown. Good evening. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council raises the blue alert warning in several areas as Tropical Depression Henry hovers near northern Luzon. The agency also advises the public to exercise caution, especially those planning to go on a road trip this weekend. Monokson tells us why.
Authorities continue to monitor different areas as Tropical Depression Henry moves to exit the Philippine area of responsibility tomorrow morning. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council says TD Henry will not make landfall in the country, but it will intensify the southwest monsoon that will bring heavy rains and may trigger flooding and landslides. The agency has raised a blue alert warning as rains threaten Metro Manila, as well as regions 1, 2, 3, Calabarzon, and Cordillera regions. It also reminds the local government units to review their hazard maps to warn areas susceptible to landslides.
Merong mga augmentation from the uniform service para in the event na kailangan nating magresponde agad, nandyan sila para magresponde.
The agency says heavy rains are expected until Thursday, but there is no need to evacuate residents in would-be affected areas for now. The NDRRMC also advises those planning to go on a road trip this week.
Kung hindi naman essential, baka pwede natin ipagpaliban. Pero kung hindi, tuloy lang pero with caution. Ingat-ingat lang para safe tayo sa ating makarating tayo sa patutunguhan natin.
Tropical Depression Henry is the second storm to enter the Philippine area of responsibility this month. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Several areas in the country would continue to experience widespread rains till tomorrow. Leslie Longbowen is at UNTV Weather Center to tell us why. Leslie?
Yes, good evening. Henry has intensified slightly as it moves closer to extreme northern Luzon. At 4 p.m. today, the center of Tropical Depression Henry was located at 180 kilometers east-southeast of Calayan, Cagayan. It has maximum sustained winds of 60 kilometers per hour and gustiness of up to 75 kilometers per hour, and it is moving westward. Tropical Cyclone Signal number 1 is raised over Batanes, northern portion of Cagayan, including Babuyan Group of Islands, northern portion of Apayao, and northern portion of Ilocos Norte. Occasional rains with gusty winds are expected over the areas under Signal number 1. Meanwhile, the southwest monsoon will continue to bring monsoon rains over Metro Manila, Zambales, Bataan, Cavite, Batangas, Mindoro, Palawan, and Western Visayas. Scattered rain showers and thunderstorms will also be experienced over the rest of the country. Tomorrow, the sun is expected to rise at 5:35 in the morning. That's the weather forecast. Back to the studio.
Thank you, Leslie Longbowen, reporting from the UNTV Weather Center. The authorities have identified the mastermind in the murder of General Thio Mayor Ferdinand Bote. And though the investigation is still underway, they consider the case as already solved. Here's why from Lea Ilagat.
The Philippine National Police have named the brains in the assassination of General Thio Nueva Ecija Mayor Ferdinand Bote. According to Police Region 3 Director, Police Chief Superintendent Amador Corpus, it was Christian Sagilabon, owner of Forthright Construction, who was behind the crime, adding that a conflict over a 69 million pesos worth of contract for the construction of Minalungaw tourism area was the motive of the killing.
The motive of the incident is associated with projects and business contracts. Away po sa negosyo, away po sa kontrata at sa projects.
Corpus says the contract was awarded by the Department of Public Works and Highways to Forthright Construction. However, the mayor was allegedly pressuring the construction firm given that it was Mayor Bote who requested DPWH to develop the roadway to Minalungaw. PNP is still investigating if someone or higher authority than Sagilabon ordered the assassination. Sagilabon is a member of the religious group Iglesia ni Cristo.
That is part of our investigation. We don't want to divulge that dahil ongoing yun ang ginagawa natin. Once na-file yung kaso, we'll be filing a whole departure order also against him para hindi siya makalabas ng bansa.
Meanwhile, according to PNP Criminal Investigation and Detection Group Police Director Ruel Ubusan, authorities have identified 8 individuals involved in the crime. 3 of them are now under the custody of the PNP. 2 of them were Florencio Suarez and Robert Gumatay, who were arrested last week at a checkpoint in Camarines Sur. The third suspect is architect Arnold Gamboa, the driver of the suspect's getaway vehicle, who voluntarily surrendered to authorities. Police say the black Toyota Avanza was seen entering the chapel gate of INC after the shooting.
Sa investigation namin, yung si Arnold Gamboa, si architect, taga doon. Malapit lang sa kapilya ng iglesia. Second, karamihan dito sa nakikita nyo are members ng Iglesia ni Cristo. That's why the regional director of Rotary, sinabi niya kagad kanina na we are in close coordination with the administration of the Iglesia ni Cristo.
Though the investigation is still underway, the PNP considers the case as solved following the identification of the motive and the persons behind the killing. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
Local authorities in Boracay Island are lamenting about the poor planning and assistance program in the ongoing island rehabilitation efforts during a hearing at the Senate earlier. Here's why from Nel Maribojo.
The Senate Committee on Tourism resumes today its probe on the issues relating to the government's efforts to rehabilitate the Boracay Island. During the hearing, some Malay Aklan executives complained about the lack of master plan and poor assistance distribution to workers and families displaced by the island's closure. According to Malay Mayor Ceciron Kawaling, some students are forced to stop their schooling since their parents no longer have enough income to provide for their education.
Mayroong mga ibang hindi nakapag-aral, but namamanage naman yon.
Opposition senators also note during the probe the delayed distribution of aid for affected families, which allegedly shows the government's lack of readiness in implementing programs relating to Boracay closure.
I-match ho natin at the minimum itong 9,000 to 10,000 pesos for the formal workers.
Yung seamless, kung talagang pulido yung pagkaplano nyo rito, pagsara ng Boracay, yung immediately yung kinsenas na yon, meron kayong mga programa to alleviate.
Data from the Department of Labor and Employment show that more than 21,000 formal workers receive 4,200 pesos while 4,764 informal workers receive 9,500 pesos through the cash assistance program. A 448 million peso budget was allotted to the program But the Department of the Interior and local government admits this is not sufficient. Based on the initial computation, they need more than 1 billion pesos to assist the 20,000 displaced workers. DILG USEC Epimaco Densing says they will ask the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council to release its 600 million peso fund.
So nakita na namin doon, sabi namin, dahil under a state of calamity yung isla, pwedeng itap ang NDMC fund. Until now, hindi pa ho natatap.
The Interagency Task Force Boracay also assures to furnish a copy of the master plan to the lawmakers. They will also release the parameters to be imposed when Boracay reopens on October 26. These include the allowable number of tourists and establishments to be erected in the island. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
The Zamboanga City Police is currently probing a former police officer who is said to be linked to the murder of a Tawi-Tawi vice mayor. The investigators also maintain that politics is the primary motive behind the killing. Gladys Tuwabi tells us why.
The Philippine National Police is pursuing leads to the suspects in the killing of Sapa-Sapa Tawi-Tawi Vice Mayor Al-Rashid-Mohamad Ali in Zamboanga City last July 11. Authorities are now investigating 2 of the suspects, one of which was a former cop who had gone absent without leave status, according to Zamboanga City Police spokesperson Police Senior Inspector Shalami Chang. Police are now verifying as to which regional unit the police suspect belonged to. Though the family of Vice Mayor Ali positively identified the said cop, authorities say they are still waiting for actual witnesses to come out and testify. Chang also confirms that the suspect was not a resident or assigned in Zamboanga City.
Sa investigation kasi sir, lumalabas yung pangalan niya. Wala pa naman kaming nakikita klaro talagang makakasabi or makakapagturo sa amin na siya na kasi kami mismo hindi namin siya kilala. So we want to come up with witnesses na makakapagsabi sa amin na siya nga talaga yun.
Police are also probing the possible connection between Ali's murder to the killing of the municipal treasurer of Sapa-Sapa in April. Ballistic tests are being conducted to verify if the firearm used in Ali's shooting was the same gun used against the municipal treasurer.
Humihingi na nga po tayo ng tulong sa crime lab kasi kailangan nilang i-cross-match yung ginamit na yung bala na na-recover doon sa insidente sa Tawi-Tawi at dito.
Police maintain that politics is the primary motive behind the killing of Vice Mayor Ali.
Politically motivated. So far, yun ang nakikita nila. Although we're not closing in on other possible motives dito.
Meanwhile, the PNP admits having difficulty figuring out the CCTV footage recovered within the vicinity of the crime scene. Because aside from being blurry, the CCTV camera was far from the actual scene. Gladys Tuwabi, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Fighting Senator Manny Pacquiao claims his 11th world title after beating Argentinian Lucas Matisse in a bout held in Malaysia. The 39-year-old boxing champ also vows to continue fighting despite calls for him to hang up his gloves. Donano tells us why.
Manny Pacquiao put in a dominant display to stun defending champion Lucas Matisse with a 7th-round knockout and claimed the WBA welterweight title in Kuala Lumpur on Sunday. The 39-year-old Filipino legend looked focused and busy from the opening bell and had the 15,000 fans at the Asiata Arena on their feet when he sent his Argentine opponent to the canvas 3 times in total with an array of clubbing blows. The southpaw dropped his opponent for the final time with a brutal uppercut, and the win, his first inside the distance since 2009, improves the 8th Division World Champions record to 60-7-2.
From the beginning of the first round, I had in my mind already that I can control the fight. But our strategy is to patient and take time, don't rush, don't be careless like what we did before. Just focus in throwing hard punches and counter punch. That's our strategy. So that we stayed on that strategy and then result into a knockout.
Pacquiao set the pace early, probing for openings and moving menacingly around the ring as he dropped Matisse for a first time in the third round with an uppercut after a flurry of punches had forced the Argentine onto the defensive. Unable to gain a foothold against Pacquiao's swarming attacks, Matisse looked to the land on the counter but was forced to take a knee towards the end of the fifth round when he was visibly shaken by a right hook to the temple. Referee Kenny Bayless called off the fight after 2 minutes and 43 seconds of the seventh round when Matisse buckled following another stiff uppercut and spat out his mouthguard as he was being counted. The win in his first bout since losing the WBO welterweight title to unheralded Australian Jeff Horn in Brisbane a year ago gives Pacquiao his 11th world title in an incredible career. Fellow senators and other personalities congratulate Pacquiao over his victory.
He works so hard in the Senate. It's really surprising to watch him. We thought we were watching a 29-year-old boxer.
Well, he's a legend, a living legend, pero ako kasi personal, again, nothing more to prove. He has sacrificed so much, his blood, sweat, and tears, katawan, para sa karangalan ng ating bayan.
Ang bilis pa rin talaga ni Manny at saka talagang magaling mag-tactic sa boxing.
President Rodrigo Duterte and Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad also commended Pacquiao after personally witnessing the bout.
I am very happy that I came earlier to watch the fight. It's a good one. And it's the first time that I have traveled outside of the Philippines just to see him fight. Great boxer.
This is a great day, a historical day for Malaysia. When we have one Filipino champion fighting in Malaysia, witnessed by the leaders of both countries. And of course, this is part of our boxing diplomacy.
Following his win, Pacquiao vows to continue fighting despite calls for him to retire from the sport. He says his desire to fight remains and that he is still in good form. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Millions of boxing fans across the Philippines erupt in joy after Senator Manny Pacquiao's impressive win against Argentinian Lucas Matisse. JL Asayo tells us why.
Filipino boxing enthusiasts burst in cheers after Senator Manny Pacquiao defeats his opponent, Argentinian Lucas Matisse, on Sunday. In the run-up to the fight, 39-year-old Pacquiao was trailed by doubts that he would be able to beat the younger knockout artist as he is already past his prime. But when Pacquiao sealed his victory in the 7th round, Filipino fans watching the match jumped in their feet and roared with joy.
Kasi nanalo ulit si Pacquiao, knockout. Kasi ang tagal na hindi nakapag-knockout eh. Ngayon, talagang masigla ulit yung mga Pilipino.
Yung kalaban talagang sumasabay kaya madaling mapuruan ni Pacquiao. Yung iba kasi dati, nag-ano lang eh. Palaging pag binabanatan ni Pacquiao, palaging depensa. Ngayon, sumasabay kaya talaga natatamaan niya. Siyempre, nandun pa rin yung bilis niya eh.
Okay naman eh. Partner talaga kay Pacquiao dahil round 3 pa lang bumagsak na eh.
Dati mula, boxing zero, Pacquiao. Ako kinabahan nila. Bakran. Pagano nila eh. Napapagano.
Pacquiao's story from high school dropout to world boxing champion is a source of pride in the Philippines. So much that Filipinos of all ages traditionally stop what they are doing to watch the boxing chumps fight. Streets in Metro Manila are also usually cleared from the traffic as fans crowd in different venues to tune in into his bout. JL Asayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
And for the latest in the UNTV Cup, it's a duel between the PNP responders and the Ombudsman graft busters in the finals of the second executive face-off after their explosive clashes in the semifinals. Bernard Dadis explains why.
The PNP responders overpowered the number 4 Senate Sentinels in the semifinals of the UNTV Cup Executive Face-Off off-season at the Pasig City Sports Center on Sunday. Senate senior Cagers tried to edge out in the first quarter by aggressively setting up a 5-0 run in the first 3.5 minutes of the ball game. and recording 4 advances in the first canto, 11-16. But the charge flipped in the second quarter when PNP changed its strategy from man-to-man to zone defense, deploying Chief Superintendent Philip Phillips to throw 2 3-point shots, scoring 35-31 against the Senate.
Medyo nanggigigil. Sabi ko, enjoy natin yung game natin, mag-focus tayo, gawin natin yung dapat gawin natin sa court, yung in-ensayo natin, yun ang gagawin natin.
After maintaining the rhythm and blustering an 8-0 run, the PNP gained a 20-point lead, 55-35, almost 3 minutes left in the third quarter. It further pounded the Senate in the last quarter until the final buzzer sounded, finishing the game with 78-61 score. Superintendents Anthony Padua and Volter Rivera led the PNP with their combined 32 points and the latter's 25 rebounds and 10 blocks. The PNP foolishly advanced to the finals as they are out to make amends after their junior counterparts failed to defend their title in the regular UNTV Cup, which was won by the Senate Sentinels. The Ombudsman Grabbusters meanwhile needed an overtime to curtail the Judiciary Magic's attempt to force a do-or-die game in the playoffs after clobbering the latter in the semis 76-73. This is despite the incomplete lineup of the Ombudsman after its ace player, Attorney Nicky Laure, stepped out of the hard court due to his injuries.
Kasi nawala sa akin, as you can see, si Attorney Nicky Laure na sa 6 na panalo ko, 6 na at 3 beses na best player. So you know exactly na siya talaga yung pinupuntahan namin sa opensa namin. So naisip ko kung kumpleto kami, wala problema. So yung nawala siya, nawala si Attorney Sasad, nawala pa si Attorney Tamano, injury pa. Hindi ko inisip, naaabot kami dito, na mag-aabot kami finals, gawa nga ng kulang kami.
George Espinal led Ombudsman with 22 points, along with Armando Sanchez Jr. who bucketed 14 points. The PNP and the Ombudsman will duel for the title on July 30 at the Smart Araneta Coliseum. Bernard Dadis, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Up next on Y News. President Donald Trump blames politicians over the souring relations of the U.S. and Russia ahead of his first ever summit with counterpart Vladimir Putin. And France overpowers Croatia to win its second World Cup trophy. And those are the reasons behind the stories in the second part of our newscast. Y News returns with William Thio. I am Angelo Castro III. Good evening.
To complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. President Rodrigo Duterte is set to return to the country tonight after his bilateral meeting with Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad, which capped his 2-day visit to Malaysia. The two leaders had a 1-hour meeting in Putrajaya, Malaysia, a day after they watched the victorious campaign of fighting Senator Manny Pacquiao to claim the WBA welterweight title from Argentinian fighter Lucas Matisse in Kuala Lumpur. Duterte and Mahathir discussed in the meeting the need to address the threat of the Islamic State in the Southeast Asian region and the insurgency in Mindanao. The two leaders also agreed to enhance the defense cooperation between the Philippines and Malaysia to fight terrorism and piracy in the high seas. Duterte's visit came from the invitation of 93-year-old Mahathir, whom Duterte congratulated last week for his return to the premiership in May. Meanwhile, majority of Filipinos are opposing current moves to amend the Constitution and shift to federalism. According to a survey by Pulse Asia, 2 in 3 Filipinos, or 67%, do not agree with charter change. 37% of this is against Chacha, now and in the future, while 30% are presently opposed to it, but may be open to the idea in the future. The same survey also reports that 62% of Filipinos are not in favor of federal government, with only 28% being supportive to it, while the remaining percentage are undecided. The survey was taken through interviews with 1,800 registered voters nationwide from June 15 to 21, 2018. In response to the poll, Malacanang said in a statement that the Duterte administration will exert more effort to educate the public about Cha-Cha and federalism. While House Deputy Speaker and Cebu Representative Gwendolyn Garcia vows to continue pushing for the federalism despite the low percentage of support.
We do not base our direction purely on surveys.
In other news, Malacanang does not care if former President Benigno Aquino III would again skip the State of the Nation address of President Rodrigo Duterte on July 23. In a text message, presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque said that it is Aquino's decision when asked about the former president's plan to skip the SONA for the third time. Earlier, the House of Representatives Inter-Parliamentary Relations and Special Affairs Bureau confirmed that Aquino had informed them that he would not be attending the president's SONA. As of now, only Vice President Leni Robredo, former President Fidel Ramos and Joseph Ejercito Estrada, and former Senate Presidents Juan Ponce Enrile, Aquilino Nene Pimentel, and Manuel Villar, as well as former House Speaker Jose de Venecia Jr. have confirmed their attendance on July 23. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council advises the local government units to prepare for heavy rains that may trigger flooding and landslides as Tropical Depression Henry moves to exit the Philippine Area of Responsibility or PAR. The NDRRMC says Henry is not expected to make any landfall in the country and will leave by tomorrow morning. However, it will strengthen the southwest monsoon, which will bring rains over Metro Manila and other parts of Luzon. A blue alert warning has already been raised over the National Capital Region, Central Luzon, and Calabarzon and Cordillera regions. The agency also advises those planning to go on a trip this week to exercise caution.
Kung hindi naman essential, baka pwede natin ipagpaliban. Pero kung hindi, tuloy lang pero with caution. Ingat-ingat lang para safe tayo sa ating makarating tayo sa patutunguhan natin.
The Philippine National Police bears the identity of those behind the murder of General Thio, Mayor Ferdinand Bote. Police Region 3 Director Chief Superintendent Amador Corpus says Christian Sakilabon, the owner of Forthright Construction, was behind the crime following a conflict over a contract for the construction of Minalingaw Tourism Area. The PNP is still investigating if someone of higher authority than Sakilabon ordered the assassination. Sakilabon is a member of the religious group Iglesia ni Cristo or INC.
That is part of our investigation. We don't want to divulge that dahil ongoing yun ang ginagawa natin. Once na-file yung kaso, we'll be filing a whole departure order also against him para hindi siya makalabas ng bansa.
Police have also identified 8 individuals involved in the crime, with 3 of them now under its custody. Following the identification of the motive and the persons behind the killing, the PNP considers the case as solved though the investigation is still underway.
Unang-una sa investigation namin, yung si Arnold Gamboa, si architect, taga doon. Malapit lang sa kapilya ng iglesia. Second, karamihan dito sa nakikita nyo are members ng Iglesia ni Cristo. That's why the regional director of Rotary, sinabi niya kagad kanina na we are in close coordination with the administration of the Iglesia ni Cristo.
Fighting Senator Manny Pacquiao vows to continue fighting after his stunning win against Argentinian Lucas Matisse in Kuala Lumpur on Sunday. Pacquiao, who returned in the country today after claiming the WBA welterweight title, insists he is still in good form and that his desire to fight remains. The 39-year-old Filipino boxing icon had his fans on their feet when he sent his opponent to the canvas 3 times in total with an array of clubbing blows. The southpaw dropped his opponent for the final time with a brutal uppercut. The win, his first inside from the distance since 2009, gives Pacquiao his 11th world title in an incredible career.
From the beginning of the first round, I had in my mind already that I can control the fight. I can control the fight, but our strategy is to patient and take time. Don't rush. Don't be careless like what we did before. Just focus in throwing hard punches and counter punch. That's our strategy. So that we stick on that strategy and then result into a knockout.
President Donald Trump blames the U.S. politicians over the worsening ties with Russia ahead of his first ever summit with counterpart Vladimir Putin. In a tweet, the U.S. president denounced what he calls his predecessor's foolishness and the alleged rigged inquiry into alleged Russian interference in the 2016 election. Some U.S. politicians had called for it to be canceled after 12 Russians were charged with hacking on Friday. Mr. Trump says he will raise the issue in the Helsinki meeting, in which the two leaders will be joined only by their interpreters. Meanwhile, a cafe in Helsinki, Finland, causes frenzy in the social media ahead of the meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Jovic Permas tells us why.
A cafe in the suburbs of Helsinki found inspiration in the similarities between American and Russian cuisine for its unofficial Trump-Putin summit dish. The dish, titled Trump-Putin, is made up of American and Russian pancakes and combines sweet and savory flavors. While the Russian pancakes, called blini, are topped with smoked salmon, sour cream, and chopped onions, the American pancakes are served with fresh strawberries, maple syrup, and vanilla ice cream. Cafe Kivari Cafe owner Tina Lononen says she first thought of baking cakes to mark Monday's summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. In the end, the idea of making pancakes came naturally.
Thought about these American pancakes and then I thought about, okay, what's the Russian part might be, and then I thought that blini, that those were so good, and So basically it was quite simple and quite fast, this thought, and I was, okay, this is it, I'm gonna do that and let's see what everybody thinks about it.
The success of the dish and the media attention since she first posted pictures of the pancakes in social media have come as a surprise, Lononen says, but she welcomes the frenzy.
Yeah, it's quite overwhelming actually, this attention, and it's very good because it's the very quiet, the most quiet time of the year, so the attention is very nice to have at this time.
The historic meeting between Trump and Putin took place in Helsinki, Finland on Monday. Jovic Permas, UNTV News and Rescue, Europe.
People of all ages erupt in cheers following France's World Cup victory over Croatia. June Garin tells us why.
The French team joyously raised their second trophy in the air after winning the 21st World Cup on Sunday, while fans from around the world cheered them on. Paris' City Hall arranged the Field of Mars in Paris to be the designated spot for fans of the French team to enjoy the grand finale. When the French team clinched the 4-2 victory over Croatia, fans erupted into excited cheers. France's victory came on the 20-year anniversary of their first 3-0 victory in 1998 over Brazil. Along Champs-Élysées, Paris' famous shopping street, crowds of fans were heard shouting, "We are real champions, world champions."
It is unbelievable. We won. We made it, and we are world champions now.
People of all ages were proud of France's performance in the match because it is no small task to get a 4-2 victory in the finals. Additionally, for the French fans born after 1998, this was their first World Cup championship celebration, so they were especially excited. Large crowds of people poured into the street to express their respect and gratitude for the football players and to celebrate the commanding victory.
We must enjoy this victory. We are so happy. Since 1998, we have waited a long time for another day like this.
Meanwhile, moments after the being crowned as world champions, Filipino France goalkeeper Alphonse Ariola tweeted while holding the trophy, "Keep calm, the World Cup is here. Champion du monde." Ariola's parents are both Filipinos, but he was raised in Paris. He is the third child among 4 siblings. June Garin, UNTV News and Rescue, Paris, France.
Hundreds of thousands of roses from the highlands are carted off to a town in Ecuador in a bid to break a world record. Leslie Longbowen tells us why.
The town of Pedro Montayo in Ecuador is aiming to break a world record with the construction of an ancestral pyramid made with more than 500,000 roses grown in the highlands of Andean country. The 1,100 square meter pyramid, weighing some 30 tons, is based on a pyramid at Cochaski Archaeological Park to the north of Quito. It seeks to win a place in the books as the largest floral arrangement in the world. A Guinness World Records team inspected the finished work on Saturday and will give its verdict within a week.
We dared and we thought this is an opportunity for the world to know Ecuador and Pedro Moncayo, where the best roses in the world are produced. That's how the idea was born.
Project designer Rosa Cisneros says each rosebud was manually placed by volunteers working in 24-hour shifts starting on July 9. The flowers were transported to a collection warehouse on trucks from 150 greenhouses located around the country's highlands. Once at the collection warehouse, volunteers cut stems, tore off leaves, and placed the roses in boxes to be taken to the middle of town where the pyramid was built. A drip irrigation system has kept the roses fresh. Organizers estimate that about $500,000 was spent on the roses. The current record is held by Frankfurt, Germany, set in 2005, with a flower arrangement of 170,000 flowers. Leslie Lomboan, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the reasons behind the news July 16, 2018. On behalf of Rheena, Villamor-Camara, and Angelo Castro III, I am William Thio. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.